Detention in police cells and prison is not one thing that anybody ever anticipates. The reality, however, is that anybody irrespective of age, sex or status could end up in police cells and eventually in prison when suspected or actually found to be in conflict with the law.
One day when I come back from school, I met a Senegalese and concierge. I knew her, and her parent knew me. I took her to that place, and her parent thanked me for my duty. What I've done to their daughter. Later on, their parent turned to me that I've defiled their daughter. With fear of more justice, I made myself to rush the police, and from there the police said that they will take my case to the court. I keep on waiting, but it failed until I stay in prison for 5 months.
We had a dispute, land dispute between myself and my brother, my elder brother. The dispute between us for that particular plot lasted for almost 20 years. Recently, I was arrested by the police as per the land dispute.
Would you know what to do if you ever found yourself or a loved one detained in police or prison? Are you familiar with the procedures and processes of police, court, Directorate of Public Prosecutions, and prison for purposes of accessing justice? Prisoners on remand constitute 60% of the prison population. These are prisoners who have not yet started serving their prison sentence. This means that it has not yet been decided whether or not they are guilty and therefore deserving to be in prison.
I've stayed in prison for 4.5 years. But again, there are those who have stayed in prison for more than 4.5 years. There are those who have stayed in prison for more than 5 years, 6 years, and they have never appeared before the High Court.
There are instances where prisoners have stayed on remand for more than 7 years.
One time I went to a Juvenile, we found somebody who had been on remand for 8 years. This is pre-trial remand. 8 years he was on remand, and nobody knew. See?
The huge remand population translates into congestion in prisons. The total approved prisons capacity in Uganda is 9,428. This capacity has been exceeded by 10,166 prisoners. The overstay of suspects in police cells can be attributed to failure of adhering to the 48-hour rule. This rule provides that a person detained at police should be taken to court within 48 hours from the time of arrest or else be released on police bond as investigations continue. Delays in the criminal justice system are partly attributed to the shortage of staff in the Judiciary and Directorate of Public Prosecutions, low funding of the judiciary to conduct criminal sessions for the trial process, slow trial processes caused by ignorance of the court procedures by the accused persons, few lawyers in comparison to those in need of representation, lack of a linkage between the accused persons with their families, and inadequate facilitation of the police to carry out investigations expeditiously, resulting into a huge case backlog.
Most files which normally delay, this is what we call file which goes for perusals. Because perusals mean the suspect either might be put on bond or the inquiry is still continuing because the suspect has not been arrested. In the case of the RISA, the time you find there's a lot of commitment because they do work in court as prosecutors and at the same time they work in the office. So also they take their time to work upon those files. They physically remain there with them until those files are perused and then they send it back to us.
I have noticed that most of the files which delay, the files are normally not with our office. They are mostly still with police.
You had frictions ourselves. We could call, I think so and so was handled that file. But no, it is not me. There was a lot of confusion rather.
Many accused persons will go to court, appear in court, but if the file is not in the courtroom, they are just further remanded. They don't know that they can inform the magistrate that their interests are being compromised by non-existence of a file. You see.
Due to the low staffing in the police, court and the office of the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, there is slow file movement from one institution to another, resulting in congestion in police cells and prisons. A delay in file movement means that the accused person continues to either stay in police cells or prison.
Originally, this prison was meant for just over 200 prisoners, but at that material time, we were accommodating up to over 600 prisoners in here.
In the prisons, people, there are so many, and they are being squeezed in a small rooms. Actually, from there, maybe I get a certain place where they can sleep. And the condition from there, being over there, is so hard. Even a single moving distance, you cannot allow it to be moved there. Where actually they restrict you from saying, actually talking to you parents, actually maybe to you relative.
Saba kankuma, omwana banje, omukazi wanje, enzi tujitura mutinki mubaba benjema baka babinjiremu, bwena ni nsaba kureba mukama ya nyamba na rugomo mu kihome. Embere zindi munimbi munonga.
Most of the prisoners, those on petty offences, they're actually ignorant about what takes place in courts. So it was very difficult for them to access bail. First of all, they did not know how to apply for bail. At the same time, they didn't know the conditions of bail. And then others, naturally, they fear court. So when they're in court, they can't raise their hand to speak whatever they want. So they had that fear in them. There was a lot of ignorance about what takes place in court. They are fearing prosecutors, they are fearing magistrates to express what they have.
They have no sureties to apply for bail because there is nobody to link them with the outside world once they are in prison.
The Paralegal Advisory Services program is designed to respond to the existing gaps and challenges within the criminal justice institutions, with specific focus on congestion in police cells and prisons, as well as delays in the administration of criminal justice. Linking the police, prisons and courts, as well as liaising with the Directorate of Public Prosecutions on a daily basis in the process of case follow-up. They provide basic legal advice, follow up cases in the criminal justice institutions, and link the suspects and remand prisoners to their families and community members for the required assistance.
The Paralegal Advisory Service is an innovative approach to providing effective legal remedies to people, especially the indigent. And in Uganda, since the program was piloted in 2005, there has been an effort to reach out to government in the sense that though the Foundation for Human Rights Initiative as civil society organization is the host, we do this in partnership with criminal justice agencies.
The Paralegal Advisory Services is one of many initiatives that is supported by the Legal Aid Basket Fund, and it's aimed at plugging the gaps within the system. It complements the justice law and order sector, and it also emphasizes that paralegals have a role to play side by side with private practitioners.
So basically what we're doing is we're not trying to replace the duties that the government has to take up, but we're trying to complement. And the Development Partners Group is also trying to urge the government to come up with a national legal aid framework.
What is unique about the Paralegal Advisory Services is the unique link of the criminal justice institutions on a regular basis. They more or less link up all the institutions, that is police, court, Directorate of Public Prosecutions, under prisons on a daily basis. They also link the suspects or the inmates in prison with the outside world, that is their relatives who could come in to help by standing sureties or paying fines or providing the information that they would need in self-defense.
Advocates in Uganda mostly work within the cities, and even those who work within the cities work outside criminal law, reason being that many of the persons caught up in conflict with criminal law are persons who are indigent and cannot therefore afford the services of a lawyer. So what the paralegals have done is to create a new class of persons in conflict with the law. These persons know their rights, these persons know the procedures, these persons are actually assertive.
If
when they go to court, they know what to say, they know what to do, and they know what to expect. So what we see now is a new trend of a new class or generational caliber or type, whatever you may call it, of persons in conflict with the law. They might be indigent, but they're also knowledgeable. And in that way, I believe that that's a lot of self-help for them.
The paralegal advisory services do not necessarily represent the minor offenders, but they empower minor offenders to know the process through which they can access judicial services, like applying for bail, like calling witnesses, like asking the court to expedite the trial, a host of many things which are very strange to even educated people who are non-lawyers.
PASS is the biggest salvation for many inmates, surprisingly even the rich, because when a rich person is arrested and his family are not aware where he is, certainly his riches will not help him, because the misconception may be having that PASS is strictly only for the poor. But no, we have had also people who have the means but don't have the information, don't have the knowledge, and therefore they will come and seek our services. So PASS is a very, very, very vital ingredient in the management of prison or the criminal justice system at large.
At police, the paralegals and social workers attend suspect parades. They take note of suspects ready for court, whose files are at RS's office, whose relatives are not aware that they are in detention, and those with special needs or special circumstances. They cross-check the facts obtained at the parade with the police records, and also follow up cases with investigative officers and RS's office. The paralegals conduct awareness sessions with relevant suspects. They link suspect with his or her family and community where need arises. They also trust sureties in cases where suspects apply for police bond.
They give us advice so that this person, they can look for at least somebody to come and stand surety. Meanwhile, we complete our inquiries.
When I was arrested and taken to the police, I remembered the paralegal, so I called. The office of the paralegal called my daughter, because I gave them the phone number. So my daughter came and stood for surety, and I was not taken to the cell.
At the offices of the state attorneys, the paralegals and social workers follow up files sent to the resident state attorneys by police to ensure that the cases move fast through the criminal justice system. They also refer the complainant who wish to drop charges against the offender by writing additional statements at police and following it through with the RSA. They also submit lists of remand prisoners who have stayed beyond the mandatory remand period so that they can benefit from mandatory bail.
I have been getting lists from the OCCAD. I told you sometimes they're irritating because you just come to the office in the morning and the first thing you're getting is a list from the police of files which they share with you. Maybe there are 15 or 20. And the motivation, what motivates the police to read this letter is these paralegals. Apparently they go there and they talk to these people. Why is this man here for 5 days? Why is this? So the police have to say the file is with us. Then yes, great.
At court, the paralegals and social workers visit the court cells to give basic legal awareness to suspects about the criminal justice process and procedures. They also interact with magistrates to present lists of prisoners who have overstayed beyond their mandatory remand periods or whose cases have stalled.
When you handle a case where a person knows his rights, it helps you to move quickly. And definitely our major interest is not to have those suspects in prison. So when they are advised and they get bail, that means they can't go to prison, and that in one way helps in decongesting the prisons.
In collaboration with prison officials, they furnish inmates with information to support applications such as bail and appeals.
The other day I got a list of over 20 pending appeals. Most of them are by prisoners, and I was shocked that all these appeals are there, and I was not aware of them personally.
They also trust sureties and check that they meet all the requirements that make them substantive and direct them to the courts where their relatives' cases are being heard. After one has been granted bail, the paralegals help to enlighten the sureties and accused persons about the dangers of jumping bail. They attend court for trial observations first to provide encouragement to the inmate to seek justice. In prisons, the paralegals and social workers conduct the following activities. They provide basic legal advice to assist them prepare for self-representation in court in the absence of a defense lawyer. They also screen inmates to identify and document inmates in need of paralegal advisory services interventions for purposes of accessing justice.
We go to the reception, we screen those who need any assistance. After screening, we do basic legal sensitization. That will be.
The criminal justice system can be technical sometimes, and they therefore come to me and I go out to them to offer them guidance on challenges that may face because of not having the legal knowledge that lawyers are equipped with.
They trust sureties through telephone contact or physically contact the relatives, employers or friends of the inmate who may be required to offer assistance through the criminal justice institutions.
If somebody is from Juvenile and they want to talk to the relatives, moment of communicating with the paralegal officers, those relatives are connected either by phone or the one can even write if it's a place like in Yaduduat and so on. One of the officers can write there and contact the relatives. Otherwise, if they not be there, like formally, that would be the problem. The word of congestion will still be there because nobody could think of going to places like those. Because now for a man from here to Koboko, who will go to Koboko?
And then for us magistrates, I think there's also isn't work for us. There are some hardcore criminals you find they'll just not plead guilty, or they will try to ask questions just for the sake. But at least many of them seem not to be enlightened. And then there are this we call our casual customers. The rate seems to be going down. You find today somebody is released, tomorrow comes back. Next time he's in prison, a few days he's released, he comes back. The rate seems to be going down. People who come from prison, when they go out, they sometimes to involve themselves in this border business to try to earn a living or something of the sort.
The Paralegals Advisory Services interventions aim at ensuring that prisons hold people who have been proved guilty and that inmates do not stay on remand beyond the statutory remand periods as provided for in the Constitution.
Prisons gets almost one of the least budget ceiling. It doesn't increase, facilities don't increase, So when more prisoners go out, actually it eases tension on the facilities. Congestion reduced, even the management of the inmates alone, it becomes feasible. When it comes to things like beddings, it can be adequate. Feeding can be adequate, it can be properly managed. Even pressure on medical facilities, it can be managed. So that's why we're really emphasizing about decongestion of prisons.
Paralegal advisory services also facilitates quick access to justice for the vulnerable persons in prisons, such as the sick, elderly, and nursing mothers.
Some come when they are pregnant. She committed a crime when she was pregnant after domestic violence. She comes when she's pregnant and she produces in prison. The baby is growing up in prison. So as paralegals, as social workers, we feel this is an innocent kid to grow up in prison. So when PASS came in, at least these women were able to be released. We are able to get in touch with their relatives. We are able to make telephone contacts. We can also take that complaint to the magistrate. We are able to talk to the magistrates, and at least the magistrate will be considerate and this person is released.
Right from the police, there should be a way of keeping the children out of prisons, even of going onto remand or onto what is this in prison police custody. So that's why I've been encouraging that it's not necessary for children to go through the filter and end in prisons.
Barabara kwa nivye gari nange nyingi shumele mtu mkubwa kwa mtikwinga kwile kuza kusoma kukatawanya barabara.
As a person in charge of children and social welfare office, I am alone in the office, and the work tends to be big. But because of the paralegal's presence in the district, they have enabled us, and whenever there are cases of juvenile, those cases are brought to my notes, and we have helped some of these children given the circumstances. They visit the remand home Namakwekwe. They go to communities and they talk to the communities about the juvenile, and they help these juvenile be heard. Sometimes some of them can even stay in the remand home for even over the period they are meant to serve the sentence.
I had no hope of coming out of Maluku prison, but there was a worker of paralegal who came and helped me out. He came and contacted my parents, who helped and came and bailed me out of court.
So paralegals are able to get to their parents, their relatives, so that they can stand surety for them in the case of granting bail. See, this makes the work of court easy, because one, the case will move faster. There is decongestion, not only in the court, in the prison, but also in the courts.
The alert code on which files are not there, so that the clerks are able to go back to their registries and get out the files which may have been misplaced. So they have assisted us a lot in order to have these cases handled.
In most cases, they come here because they're following a file. And they're following a file because somebody has told them in police that this file is with RSA. So what I do is I call my clerk and tell him, you bring me your register and go through. This file is here, this file is here, this one is not here, this one we've not received it, this one is here, this one is here. And I always assure them, these ones we're going to work on them probably today. And I explain to them why they have delayed.
Persons who have committed petty offences can be sentenced to community service sentences by court. This means that an accused person is sentenced to work in the community while they come from their homes instead of being detained.
When these paralegals go to police, they advise these people that there is that punishment called community service. So when they come to court and they are going to be punished, they ask for it. And that one also helps the decongesting of the prisons.
Their aim is to solve problems among others amicably, rather than taking a criminal procedure. They even never demanded any money from me. They never demanded any money from me.
Paralegals and social workers provide an absolutely free service. They do not charge any money, and their services are available for all persons in conflict with the law. Those are suspects at police and inmates in prisons.
At the prisons, the paralegals used to come, and I told them my case, and they come from there, they forward my case to court. At the court, the parent of the gun failed to produce clear evidence. So my case was dismissed.
With the activities of PASS, I think things are working out. The number of prisoners has drastically reduced. There's no more overstaying on remand beyond the mandatory period.
We have the paralegals and social workers jointly trained by police with regard to police procedures in the administration of criminal justice, in relation to the rules and regulations that govern the operations and procedures of police. All that training is done by the police.
We are very, very, very proud of it. It's a remarkable effort, and we think it may not stop here. We are benefiting. We have already benefited. We are getting the fruits, and these are the fruits, and we need more.
I'm very, very, very grateful on behalf of the prison service. We shall continue to support the paralegal advisor services so that the majority of our clients can feel justice coming to them.
We shall really tell the people and the community that they should approach, in any case there's problems, they should approach the office of the paralegal.
The program is so far being implemented in the magisterial areas of Gulu, Fort Portal, Kampala, Mbale, Arua, and Mbarara. The services will spread to other areas in the country in a phased approach.
It is hoped that in the near future this project will be owned and amalgamated into the government structures and carried on as such, as it's proved to be very critical in plugging the gaps in the criminal justice system.
In a nutshell, the impact has been very positive. The relationship has been cordial, right from the police to the courts and through to the prisons.
A success story in a very short time, as evidenced by testimonies of those who have benefited and the institutions charged with criminal justice, namely the judiciary, the police, the prisons, and also the Directorate of Public Prosecutions.